The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast, the podcast that is here to help you, a loved one, or a friend get started down the road to recovery. This is the Friends in Recovery podcast, brought to you by the Genesis House. Genesis House, providing a safe, nurturing environment to heal from addiction since 1992. Please be a friend and share our message with a friend on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or YouTube. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, welcome everybody. Glad to have you. This is the welcome. Excuse me. This is Friends in Recovery podcast, and we're broadcasting live from Studio 21 podcast. And this podcast is about helping those with a substance abuse problem and their families. I'm Mike Miles. This is Ed Chionchio. We have two special guests today. We have Tom and Nancy, and we're gonna get back to them in a moment. We like to welcome everybody and just let you know you can catch Friends in Recovery podcast live every Tuesday, 4 o'clock on YouTube, or listen anytime on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other favorite podcast catcher. And please be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to contact us, anybody from Friends in Recovery, Ed, Mike, or Jeff, we can be reached at help. It's going to be
help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com.
Right. Or you can call us at 1-800-989-6504. Or you can check out our website at www.friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. And, of course, we'd also like to thank Genesis House for sponsoring Friends in Recovery. And now back to Studio 21 podcast and our show. Ed put this together. This is brand new, and we'll talk about it.
It was so professionally read.
It was great. It was great. Well, just like it was kind of winged here, we're going to do this show winging it.
Sounds good.
Well, the good news is we have a couple of professionals.
Yes, exactly. Right. They do a lot more podcasts than we do.
Introduce our guest.
We Mike and I had the privilege to be on a Don't Do It Yourself podcast a couple weeks ago. And now we're returning the favor to Nancy and whatever this guy's name is.
Tom.
I know.
Tommy Two Shoes.
I know. And as some of you guys, we kind of got the podcast out to all our followers.
Yes.
And so they're kind of familiar with you. And I think this is a great follow-up to that, to kind of talk a little bit more about recovery and our strengths, our hopes, all our weaknesses and strengths, and their journey.
One of my favorite subjects.
Absolutely. And Nancy, we know you're not in recovery, but you had to watch Tommy go through things and do what he did, and
I did.
It's not fun. So so we have Nancy here on that side of things.
Yeah, and I just want to say, having a brother and sister that not only look so good, which is tough. Next time I come, I'm bringing a change of clothes. I don't know what. But also, they drive so well. They get along so well. It's so professional. And, it's really been a pleasure, being on your show, but also to watch your podcast. Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name's Tom, and I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict, and proud to be one, and grateful every single day of my life that I was able to find this program and get the help that I needed when I needed it. I'm 62 years old. I know I don't look it. And,
modest.
And my life is wonderful, and I mean wonderful.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is my sister and my best friend in the world right here.
Mm-hmm. Love this.
My sister Nancy, and she's watched me go through everything. And
for how many years now?
Oh boy!
How long have you been?
Well, I've been sober for 29 years.
29 years.
Wow.
A day at a time. And but she's watched me from way beyond that, because I had to get to a deep, dark place before I finally went for some help.
Yeah, and our family members really suffering. We don't know it at the time, and I don't have to tell you that, Nance.
Right.
But when we're in our addiction, we just kind of roll over everybody. I remember going to a family reunion when I was in my 20s, and I just rolled over every family member there, and I thought I was king shit there.
Oh, yeah.
I really thought I was. I ended up this close to getting arrested, not by you, Mike, but but I thought that was really cool, you know. And then I look back on it, I'm like, that one memory still sticks out, you know, at this family reunion. And you know, what we do to our families is it's not a good thing, you know. And
What you do to yourself is worse. though.
it is absolutely.
Yes, tell us,
absolutely.
tell us a little bit about yourself and your wonderful brother.
So Tom is my older brother.
Yeah,
You can tell
beautiful,
just by looking
Obviously.
at him.
Absolutely.
Way older, I
yeah.
would say.
34, 35.
Yeah, I just had a birthday. I'm 35. Yeah. So Tom and I grew up together. He protected me growing up, and then there came a point in time where I tried to protect him when he started being out of control with his addictions. We didn't see it at first, but there's a checklist that you go over in your head later, and you see all the signs. He was alienating his family. We were enabling him too much. And it was really scary. It was scary for quite some time. But he pulled up his bootstraps, and he's come a long way.
Got it together.
He
Got it
sure
together.
has.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
That's it.
I love the fact you just said that enabling, because families really, it's love too. Love and enabling, they go hand in hand.
They
you
do.
know, and when you're a parent or you're a wife or a significant other, it's always difficult because you want to do the right thing, but you don't want to overdo it. You know their moods, you know their likes, their dislikes. You know, and sometimes it just takes a professional to come in and say, look, you sit over there. We love you. We know you love him or her, but you know we have to take over.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's you know, the family thing. And that's my big thing is the family. I love working with the family. I love you know, kind of getting the family to understand what's going on because you know, Mike and you guys. I mean, you guys know this. Sometimes a family, no offense, Nance, but sometimes a family's sicker than the addict themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, because of that, you know, they have to play that certain role in the family, and they have to kind of be, you know, Tommy protected you, but
Right.
I'm sure your brother, sister, mother, father played a different role in your using to kind of either hide it or okay, we're the perfect family,
Right.
blah blah blah, whatever,
Right.
you know. So that's kind of you know.
Well, that's because family members think that it's their fault, that they did something wrong.
Exactly.
The mother and father
Yeah. Oh,
think
boy.
they screwed up
Yes.
somehow.
So
Yes.
true, especially
it's-
mothers. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, and that's not really true. It's a whole bunch of things, right?
Certainly is.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
Tommy,
absolutely.
what made you get sober? When was the light over Marblehead coming on? When did you decide
Well,
this was
let me
it?
tell you, I punished myself and my family and everyone in the world for as long as I could before it finally hit me. And just to give you a quick rundown, I'm not going to tell you my story, but I was a thief. I went to jail. I shot my friend. I hurt my family so bad. My dad was an attorney, and I was constantly being arrested and embarrassing in the court system. I didn't give two shits about anyone, and mostly myself.
right.
And then after 7 detoxes and bouncing for years, finally one day, I met my angel, and that was the woman I married, Barbara.
Nice.
And she gave me an ultimatum: either cut the shit or get out. Okay, and I thought I had finally met someone that could change me and do this and do that, and she tried her ass off, but she couldn't. But I remember looking in her eyes when she said, "Get out."
Oof.
And I was so sick of tired of being thrown out of everywhere I lived and with whoever I was with that, you know, I was giving up on myself. I tried killing myself. I tried everything, man. And I just had that feeling inside me that I was worthless. And I'll never forget, we had a little baby, my little heart, okay? And she came home, and I came home after about being on a week bender, and she laid the baby down on the bed with me. I'm trying to crash, and she said, "I need Pampers and formula and this and that, and I gotta go. You gotta watch the baby." I said, okay, put the baby here. And she left to go shopping, and I fell asleep. And I'll never forget it to this day. I was sleeping, and I heard a boom. And I jumped up quick, and my little baby was laying on the floor. I still get goosebumps thinking about today even. And I picked her up and I screamed, God, please help me. And I ran down to the car and I drove her to the hospital. And all the way there, I was praying, God, please, I'll never, ever drink a drug again. Please let her be okay. And I begged so much. I could hardly see. I was crying so bad. Excuse me. And I'm driving and I get there and the doctor looks at the baby and he says, she's fine. She got a little bruise on her head for where she hit the floor. And I swore. I was driving back home and I said, I made a deal with God, someone greater than myself. And it was no longer about me because I didn't care about me. But I sobered up that day and I went to meetings. And then I went to jails and I spoke there. And I helped people and I got a sponsor and I did the 12 steps and I did every goddamn thing I needed to do to get my life back in order. And I went to my family and they loved me and they supported me. Even though I frigged them over so bad. I don't want to swear on your podcast.
You can.
You can.
And things started to slowly turn around. I had to pay taxes back. I paid amends to people. I had so many things I had to do to straighten out my life, but I just kept doing them one at a time. And I kept getting better and better every day. And every time I talked to that little bastard on my shoulder, I'd tell him, get out of here. I'm not going to pick up a drink or a drug. And I stayed with it, and people picked me up and drove me places and did the things for me. And today, I have the greatest life, I swear to God, honest. Please believe me, it can be done.
Yeah.
It is the most wonderful life I could ever have. My children love me, my wife loves me, my sister loves me. I wish my father got to see me sober before he died.
Nice.
Good.
And I wish others were around to see me now, but I know they're looking down upon me. That's what I believe. And I get on my knees every single day and I pray that the same thing will happen for me each and every day, that I won't pick up a drink or a drug. And that I will continue on to be grateful, because that's what keeps me sober. And that's all I'm going to tell you, is because life is beautiful. Give it a shot. I mean it sincerely with my whole heart and soul. Please give yourself a break.
Yeah. Well, that's I'm glad the story ended that way, Tommy, because I thought it was going a different way. That's what we call spiritual awakening. And there's something that each one of us as addicts and alcoholics, we get that spiritual awakening. Most of us that are privileged to be sitting in these seats today, that get the spiritual awakening, and that'll rattle the shit out of you. Yep. God is there to kind of wake you up and say, we'll give you one more shot at this.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't take it, but you did, and it's amazing that everything went the way it is. Now, when Tommy says we do have a perfect life, we do, because we don't use drugs, we don't use alcohol. Right. We have our ups and downs, though.
Oh, yeah.
We have, we pay taxes.
That's right.
We have arguments with our wives, our loved ones, but we can handle it without doing a drug or taking a drink or ignoring the family member, not making them feel that that they're a piece of crap. You know what I mean? And we understand them as well as they understand us. So we do have our ups and downs. And when Tommy says our lives are perfect, they really are. I mean, there is nothing better than being sober and dealing with everything. Yes, I agree with you.
I'm good, man. I'm good.
When I hear Tommy talk about the spiritual awakening, and I have a very simple, basic prayer I do every night, and I get on my knees, and it's no denomination. I don't know. I was brought up Catholic, but it doesn't matter to me. I don't even know. My God in this program is just my imagination and the people in the halls and maybe a little bit of the old emlets or whatever you saw in church and stuff. Right. But the basics: getting on your knees, asking for help, being grateful. I love Tommy, when you talked about the steps. You get involved in the steps. The steps are such a big part of recovery. I didn't get involved for like 18 months into the program. I was just too crazy. I couldn't read a a sports page. I just couldn't get through a paragraph. I'd look at the pictures, but eventually started reading. I had panic and anxiety attacks, and I eventually started reading the steps. And steps 1, 2, and 3 just put me in my place every single day. I'd have a major panic attack. I couldn't drive. I couldn't eat. I was petrified of going to sleep. So I'd grab the step book. I wanted a meeting, and I'd read step 1, 2, and 3. Step 1, 2, and 3. Nancy, let me ask you: did you ever do any of the family stuff? Did you go to Al-Anon?
I went to Al-Anon. Tom was actually he stayed in a place
One of my
for a year.
detoxes. I stayed in a year.
He stayed
from
a
one place.
year.
Wow.
Really?
Yes, he did.
Tried
And he
everything, man.
needed to be there for a year, and he
Oh,
knew
yeah.
that. And he knew that.
Probably true. Yeah.
Well, everybody knew that before he did.
Yes, exactly. That was the problem.
Exactly. So we used to go and have group meetings with the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
family,
yeah.
and we'd sit around and we'd talk. And I was probably the most naive about it because I loved him so much. I couldn't process it that he really had a problem. He was just partied. We were young.
Yes.
We were partying.
right.
Because I can control myself. So I thought he could in the beginning. But then the longer he was there and the more I heard him talk and share his feelings with us and my family share their feelings, I saw. But it helps a lot to go to some meetings. The Al-Anon, I've been to AA meetings with permission,
Yeah.
watching people get coins, things like
sure.
that. And it's so moving.
Yeah.
And you see that struggle. And I can't say enough about that struggle. It's a tough one. But it can be beat.
Absolutely.
Wow, this is a great show. We'll be back in a minute or so, and Friends in Recovery podcast. Thank you.
Got it.
Genesis House is a premier substance abuse and rehabilitation facility located in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. We have been providing the highest quality of addiction treatment since 1992 and are accredited by the Joint Commission. We offer a range of programs that include detox, residential treatment, dual diagnosis, a Christian track for people who want to incorporate their faith into treatment, a uniform services track, and we work with most major insurance carriers. Genesis House is led by a dedicated team of administrative and clinical professionals, and we stand on our commitment to excellence in recovery services. Contact us today to find out more about our program. Take the first step and call Genesis House at 800-737-0933 or visit us on the web at www.genesishouse.net. That's 800-737-0933 or www.genesishouse.net. Begin your journey to a long and successful recovery with Genesis House.
Yeah, just say that.
Hey, welcome back to Friends in Recovery podcast. We're broadcasting live from Studio 21 Podcast Café. Myself, Ed, Tommy Two Shoes, and No Nonsense Nancy.
And I think Tommy has something to say.
Yeah. Well, a couple of weeks ago, these gentlemen were on my podcast, my sister's podcast as a team, the Don't Do It Yourself podcast. We're a referral service for homeowners and business owners that need good contractors that they can that we refer them to that are great.
And what's that saying you
And
have?
our favorite saying is, "Put that hammer down." But now we got one for you guys. Put that drinking drug down. You can't do it yourself.
Ed's been
Right.
practicing that.
I've been.
And they can have that as much as they want if it's going to help one soul.
Right.
We'll have Jonathan put a soundbite in for us.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, I believe there's no coincidences, and I've found that out over the years. I've been to, probably 1,000 meetings, maybe more. I've been going to a lot of meetings. Not as many as I used to go to. I used to go 2-3 meetings a day sometimes, literally, and that lasted for a long time. And what I found out in the halls of AA was no matter who I was listening to speak, no matter how bad my day was, and I had some bad days. I didn't get paid for 17 months. They were going to fire me from my job. I was a police officer, and I had an alcohol and drug problem. And I just did let go and let God. I learned to read those little sayings and live and let live. And, when I was so sick when I came in, I thought it said live and let live. And I'm like, what does this mean? But those little sayings and going to meetings and saying the Lord's Prayer and getting out of there and just, no matter how bad my day was, when I left a meeting, I felt rejuvenated. I felt better. Didn't last all night sometimes, but
Yeah.
I had that 1 or 2 hours of tranquility, peace, serenity, and it's still to this day. No matter how bad my day is, if I pop into a meeting, my home group is on Sunday night, I just sit in the back and I listen, and I got to tell you, the magic's still there.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I do got to say is that we brought the tradition from your show over to ours just for you guys.
We stole it.
We're gonna have a cigar. Me and Mike were having a little thing before, like, should we? But
Mike's lighter.
twisted your arm.
yeah, I do too. Nance, from a family standpoint of view,
Yep.
did you ever think that this would ever happen? First of all, number one, Tommy getting sober, number one. Number two, having this great life that he has, because as families, we do share. I have kids in recovery too. We do share the wonderful life that they have. So did you ever think of any of this? Was it ever going to happen?
Well, I know our family dynamics, and I know that when we, if we really want to do something and we really try hard enough, that we can accomplish just about anything. Something like Tom's addiction is a whole different realm than, getting a better job or having 2 podcasts instead of 1. But he had the determination, he had the love for his daughter, he had the love for mom and wanting to, not break her heart anymore, and he had a love for himself. At the end of the day, he wanted to save himself.
Yeah. Well, we usually come into this for other people, and I know I did. I'm not sure. Yeah, obviously it sounded like you did, saying that foxhole prayer in that car the whole time.
Right.
But we come around to find out that we're really doing it for ourselves.
That's right.
We're taking care of ourselves. We're taking
That's
care of
the
us.
bottom line.
And then it makes everybody else fall right in line with us.
Right.
Because anything we put before our recovery usually goes away.
Right.
Yeah.
So podcast, jobs, family, everything. If we put that before our recovery, and families do understand this eventually, that I got to go to an A meeting, I got to go to counseling, I got to get my tune-up at my therapist. And families usually understand that. So, and I'm guessing that's something that you've seen with Tommy throughout the years.
Absolutely, I have, and I know that you can slip up, and you have to, start again, but it happens. It's not. It doesn't mean anything's wrong, right? It's just part of life. I mean, it's like a diabetic. I mean, they can take insulin every day, but they got to control their blood sugar.
If you
still
follow
have
the
to work on
program
it.
properly, the way it's laid out, not a lot of people screw up. I'll be honest with you. For me, I always had a different agenda. I would practice what I wanted to practice, and not all the things.
Do it your way, right?
We've all heard of 13th step, and there was certain things I just didn't believe in, and I wasn't going to believe in them until I had to experience that I was screwed up by not doing them. And that's not a good way to go. You got to follow every step. You got to be willing to surrender to win. And finally, I did. I did everything they asked me to do. I wouldn't give a shit if they told me to shovel shit.
Absolutely.
I was doing it.
I always say, if my sponsor told me to go stand in a corner on your head for an hour, guess where I would be?
You would do it.
To this day. I mean, I have 24 years under. I'm a kid compared to you guys, but I have 24 years under my belt.
What do you mean you're a kid?
You're older than both of us.
I look pretty damn good.
we still got hair.
Not much.
I guess I'm losing that race. But we do whatever it takes, and and I'm not putting my mother down or anything, but to this day, and I don't think she listens to the podcast. So, but to this day, I don't think my mother understands my recovery or understands I'm not sure, but you know what? That's okay, because that's her thing. It's not my thing. And again, if I put my worry and my proving myself, in front of my recovery to my mother, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys, And it's just a blessing to know that I can just be me.
That's right.
Do what I need to do to take care of me, and everything else will fall into place.
She wouldn't understand if you were on the news either. Okay.
Yeah, that is true.
I think being a cop, street cop for 28 years in a cruiser, walking a beat, I did it all. But what I found in recovery was they talk about progression, the progression of the disease, and they talk about, if you quit drinking when you're 30 years old and you go 10 years without a drink, when you quit, if you were a complete blackout drinker with bad karma, bad things were happening, and making bad decisions, that if you picked up 10 years later, no matter how successful you were, within a very short time, you'd be right back where you are. And I've seen that firsthand. I've been at meetings. I've said the Lord's Prayer with a guy that was 3 years sober, And I was walking a beat maybe a week later, and there was a man down by the bus stop. I get the call. I go over. I check his vitals. He's dead.
Yep.
I go through his pocket, and here he is, my friend, Bob B. And I'm reading it, and I'm looking at him, and I can't believe I hadn't seen him in a week. And he looked like he had aged 10 years. And, that scared me. That made me realize that there's a lot of things in the program. The promises. They talk about the promises. You'll know a new freedom. To me, someone asked me one day about how I could describe being sober, and I had to think about it, and I thought, you know what, it was like getting out of jail. It really was. I had freedom. I could do and go as I wanted. I didn't have to worry about money if I needed to save money for that drug or for that. I didn't need to worry about if this guy was going to be home. What if he's not home? Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just all of a sudden I had this freedom. I could come and go as I want. I could listen to music. I could... Of course, I was driving a shitbox, but it didn't matter. I was driving a car.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't driving under the influence. You weren't driving with a suspended license. You weren't driving without insurance.
You weren't driving looking on the rearview mirror.
Oh yeah. So, it's just it's amazing that we can sit here and talk and kind of laugh about it now. But some of the folks out there, they're saying this isn't funny. This
some people are hurting right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And you'll get there one day. You will, as long as you do. As long as you do it one step at a time, just like us. We do it day at a time. Time takes time.
That's right.
It really does, and that's
sometimes
that's
an
actually
hour at a time.
That's actually a section of our.
It is.
Of our
It is.
Real quick, I just want to kind of congratulate some folks out there.
Absolutely.
We have a section, a portion of our show. It's called "Time Takes Time." And I wanted to get this out there and let people know that send us in your name and your kind of your
length of sobriety.
Your length of sobriety. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
And everybody should be proud of that. So every week we're going to read off 4 or 5 names, and towards the end of the show, and kind of let everybody know. So this is our Time Takes Time portion of the show. We'd like to congratulate the following folks: Justin K. out of Atlantic City with 7 years. Samantha B., Hamilton, New Jersey, 30 days. That's amazing.
Right.
30 days.
Big stuff.
Yeah. We have Roy D. out of Boston, Massachusetts, right down the road from here, with 3 years. And Christine L. out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, 1 year. Granted that we have all this time up here. We have almost 100 years between us. Yeah. But 30 days, 1 day, you pick up your white chip.
We all have 1 day.
We have 1 day,
right.
yeah.
We all have 1 day.
And, not to leave you out, Nance, I mean, you have 29 years of a new life also.
Yes, I do.
And it's amazing, that you had to adjust also. What was some of the adjustments that you had to do? Because I'm sure you enabled Tommy. I'm sure you covered for him.
I did cover for Tom.
Yeah.
I also justified some of his actions because of our age and, or the kids he hung around with or the neighborhood he hung around in. But I see him more now than I did when he was, he'd disappear for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a good thing that I see him all the time, and sometimes not so much, but nonetheless.
Yeah. No nonsense.
This is not political TNT
right? But he's an inspiration to me. He really is, because he has accomplished so much 1 day at a time. He's got, I think it's a disease. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
100%.
100%.
But I don't think it's something that's because of the neighborhood you grew up in or the sociological, economic things that people say. Right. It's sometimes genetics, because it is you can inherit it.
Family disease.
Family disease.
Yeah, it's inheritable, yes.
But he's gotten past it.
Yeah.
He's gotten past it every day. He continues to stay past it. He stays ahead of it. And I'm proud of him. And
I have a question for you. As a family member, speaking to the families out there, anyone who might be listening, driving home, listening, and they're going home to their husband, their wife, their brother, their significant other, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, what suggestion would you have for somebody that's just about at the end of their ropes? Not the addict or the alcoholic, but the family member. Yes.
So I found a lot of inspiration in going to AA meetings. If you can get someone to let you come in to see a chip,
Open
you hear the stories,
Open meetings.
And it touches you and it registers in your mind. This I'm not alone. He's not the only one out there. And it inspires you and it makes you feel stronger and more supportive because you get sick of this. Yeah. Always falling down again. Always he didn't show up for a family holiday. So that kind of thing worked really good for me.
Right.
And just if he wants to talk about being sober 23 and a half hours a day, listen to him. Listen to him.
Oh, yeah.
Be happy
Good. Yeah.
that that's what he's talking about. And not about, and not about where he's going to go partying tonight.
Right.
You know,
Where are you going to find your next
Yeah,
drug or
listen
drink
to
or
them.
whatever?
Yeah. Listen to them.
Good advice.
absolutely.
drive them.
advice. Yeah.
Drive them when they
Drive
need to
them,
go
yeah.
somewhere.
I was so
Hook
lucky to
them
have
up with
the
people
support.
like you guys.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm
The
guessing
Genesis House. The
absolutely. Well, I'm guessing that this show kind of was a godsend. I mean, we're all put together
Yep, for a
here for a
reason.
reason, and it's
Absolutely.
amazing that this came across like this. You
I
know,
agree.
and well, that's the music
Yep,
for
and
us to
that's
get
it.
the hell out of here.
We want to thank Nancy and Tom for coming today.
Thank
and,
you so much.
Thank you
know,
guys. Thanks.
honestly,
Appreciate it.
it's wonderful.
You're wonderful people.
We're like family. It's just wonderful. You know,
And
all
real
of a
quick
sudden.
before we go, tell us your shows that are on the air.
Yes.
So we got the Don't Do It Yourself podcast every Thursday at 10:30 in the
11
morning.
o'clock on Thursday.
11 o'clock
Thursday.
at Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, and every Saturday morning at 10:30 we do the Political TNT, where we talk about the hottest, most explosive politics.
Now,
in-
that's a show to watch,
in,
guys.
the
Ooh.
news
And
today.
You wouldn't think we loved each other
Yeah, you
Nancy's
then.
would
my
not think
favorite on
yeah.
that show.
There you go. Woo!
Well, that's it for today's show. And
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Thanks,
much,
guys.
you
we are Friends in Recovery podcast, live from the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, where we are now. Wonderful place. And we have some wonderful people sitting next to us and behind us. If you would like to contact us, we can be reached at, is that an email?
That's-
even-
yeah, help.
Help at friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. That's a long one, but so it's help at friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. Or you can call us at 1-800-989-6504. Also check out our website, friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. And don't forget, you can catch Friends in Recovery Podcast live every Tuesday, 4 o'clock, on YouTube, or listen anytime on Podbeam, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other favorite podcast. And please be sure to hit the subscribe button, and we're going to narrow this down.
Yes, we are.
Right after the show.
And don't forget to email us your
right.
all your information about it.
And do your laundry and
That's
pay
it.
your bills.
That's it.
All right.
Mike will get used to it.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.